So we're still kind of dissecting this SMILE questionnaire, and we're up to the I in SMILE, and I stands for ingestion. So ingestion is food, our tucker. And if you want some complexity, just put what diet should I be on or whatever into your search engine of your computer. But at the end of the day, there are some things that are common to everyone, and it shouldn't be confusing. What food is, for a start, food is our fuel. It's the building blocks for our recovery and our repair, and it's a reason for us to celebrate and bring us joy. So, that's kind of what it's all about. But with regard to food, there are some really simple things that we need to know, and I kind of teach dietary education in a really simple way. I try and make sure that you know the rules of good eating, that you understand that there's a certain balance that your meals should have and your day should have, and that there is a uniqueness about all of us, so that, in that sense, we need to kind of understand that uniqueness and respect it. There's not one size fits all when it comes to food, but food is not our enemy when it's all said and done. So when it comes to the first one, the rules of good eating, there's just a few little things you could take on board. The first one is go for quality, not quantity. What does that mean? Well, it means don't eat too much, but it also means try and eat food that is natural, unprocessed, so that you could pull it from the tree, dig it from the ground, cull it from the animal. You can cook it and eat it raw, but it looks like food. You don't have to read the package on the side and say, well, what's in it? You should know it because you recognise it. Eat within acceptable hours at acceptable intervals. That's a really, really important one. It's interesting, your body goes through two phases during a 24-hour period. You go through what's called a catabolic phase and an anabolic phase. The catabolic phase happens during the day, and that's trying to extract energy so you can get things done. Normally that's in the daylight hours. And then at night, your body's going through a recovery and a repair phase, and it's not actually really wanting to eat. It just wants to use what it got from the day to repair and rebuild you. So obviously there are times to eat. And the other thing is just make sure that there is a bit of a regularity to your eating. You don't have to have 5 small meals a day necessarily, but you should have 3 meals a day. I think it's important. A good balanced meal will give you 4 or 5 hours worth of energy. So in the context of that would fit in 3 meals a day. Combine your food correctly. It's an interesting one. It's probably not the most important one, but in the context of things, you should particularly take this one on board. Eat when you're hungry, drink when you're thirsty, because we get that one wrong. So when you sit down to your evening meal, just eat. You don't have to be drinking and eating at the same time. If you understand digestion, it requires a whole heap of concentration of digestive juices to initiate the breakdown of food. That's all you're doing when you digest, taking a big thing and turning it into a little thing so you can absorb it. So if you dilute that acid and dilute those enzymes, it actually, one, reduces the ability for you to break it down, actually reduces your ability to get the food across from your gut into your bloodstream, and often pushes it through a bit quicker so you don't get the benefit of it as well. This is probably the most important one actually, is when you eat, relax, don't rush. If you want to switch off your digestion, get stressed. And digestion needs you to take your time and give the whole process a chance to work. So just make sure that you make eating a bit of a sacred time. Slow the game down, chew your food thoroughly, and just take it easy and just let it happen. Like, your body knows what to do. Don't sabotage it. And a really important one is variety is the spice of life. So getting lots and lots of variety. It's in the different colours that we eat that we get the different nutrients. It's having protein, carbohydrate and fat, that gives us a whole heap of different macronutrients to build us. So, make sure that you mix it up a little bit. Having that same pattern over and over again is not a good thing. I said the second rule was all about balance, and there are 2 distinct rules that I teach. I'm not going to go into great detail, but I'm going to say this. Every time you have a main meal, if you put protein, carbohydrate and fat in the meal, you create what's called a low GI meal. It's a meal that will get in slowly, and it buys you time to get the benefit of it. Once food rushes into your bloodstream, you've got to get rid of it. It's not allowed to sit in your bloodstream. It causes damage. So if you can actually, let it come in at a rate that you can cope with it, you'll get the benefit of it. You've only got 3 options when it gets in your bloodstream. You can burn it, that's what you want to do. You can store it, and that's how you get the roof over the tool shed. Or you can piddle it out, and if you're piddling it out, I can tell you now, things aren't working properly. So when you have protein, carbohydrate and fat in a meal, you're getting a balanced meal that's going to get in easily. What does that mean? What does it look like? If you had chicken and you had salad and you had a dressing on the salad, the chicken is the protein, the salad is a carbohydrate, and the oil in the dressing is a favourable fat. It's as simple as that. The other thing is that over the day, we need to get variety. And the reason you need to do this is like if you had sardines on toast for breakfast, surprisingly, sardines on toast is actually a balanced breakfast according to my rules, because sardines have protein and they have favourable fat in them, and the bread's carbohydrate. So you got the three in there. But if you had sardines on toast for breakfast, lunch and dinner, although you could argue that you've had three perfectly balanced meals, you've had a crappy day. So you need this other rule to ensure that you get variety, and I call it the law of twos. So at the end of every day, hopefully you can say, I've had a couple of pieces of fruit, I've had a couple of meals that contain vegetables or salad, I've had a couple of fistfuls of protein over my main meals, I've had a couple of serving sizes of favourable fats that are spread out over my three main meals, and I've hopefully limited the amount of grains I've had to a couple of times a day. If you do that, you're generally getting that law of twos in place. As for the third rule, the fact that, one man's meat is another man's poison, you're going to have to talk to someone who would look into that. But if you've got the first two things right and you're still having trouble with your food, there's something in there that isn't fitting you. But they're kind of the simple kind of considerations for diet. It's a bit more complex when you kind of look into it, but you can do it.